Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. It's May. It's a new day. So we've talked about standards, and one of the things that you've heard me say is if you really want to change the quality of your life, raise your standards. And, but how do you do that? What does that mean? And how do we get there? Well, last night, T and I watched A Few Good Men. She hadn't seen it in forever, and it popped on during one of the breaks at some point, and she said, I hadn't seen that movie in a long time. I want to watch it. So we threw on A Few Good Men before we went to bed. And if you've not ever seen that movie, you should see it. It's Nicholson at his finest. You can't handle the truth. And it's a story about a Marine who is killed, and then two Marines are on trial. And part of the story talks about the standards that the Marines have, especially the Marines at Guantanamo Bay. Demi Moore is also in it, and she says that they're fanatical about being Marines. Well, Marines show you what it means to really raise your standards and live life at a different level. And here's what I think is interesting. Pay attention as you're driving around over the next couple of days or week. Periodically, you will see a sticker on a car, a bumper sticker, and it'll say, not as clean, not as mean, not as clean, not as lean, but still a Marine. And if you talk to somebody in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, who's a Marine, because remember, once a Marine, always a Marine. You're never an ex-Marine. Once you're there, you're there. And they've been around significantly longer than the United States has. They will tell you, even if they were in active combat, many times they will tell you it's the greatest years of their life when they were in the Marine Corps. Why would they say that? Why would they say that it's the greatest years of their life? Even if they were in Korea, even if they were in Vietnam, why would they say that? Well, the reason they would say that is because during that period of time, they lived life at their highest standards. And when you do that, that's when you feel the most alive and you feel the most proud of yourself, because you have to expand at this amazing level in order to function. So they had to, their standards in terms of their physical body, their standards in terms of mental alertness, their standards were incredibly high, and that's where they felt most proud of themselves in terms of how they were living their life. And once they got away from actively being in the Marine Corps, it became much more difficult for them to live by those standards. Well, why not? Well, because they were not surrounded by people who were living at those same standards, and so their standard came down. Certainly their standard with regards to their physical body, their standard with regards to mental alertness and toughness, and so they weren't as proud of themselves. So how do they get to those standards? Do they start out and say, we're going to go with this standard, and here's our steps, and is that what they do? Not at all. They start out by doing little teeny tiny thing. It's the power of rituals. They start by setting up little basic rituals. What's the first thing that they teach you how to do when you go into the Marine Corps? March. March together as a unit and march in a straight line. And then count while you march. And then run in the same way with a cadence in a straight line as a unit. They start by the way that you look. Your hair goes to this. Your dress has to be impeccable. Every piece of clothing has to be perfect at all times. Clean, tucked, pressed. What's your bed have to look like? Perfect. When you get up, your area has to be perfect. They start out with little teeny tiny rituals, and then those rituals build a standard in every person that is a Marine. Remember the old idea, sow a thought, reap an action, sow an action, reap a habit, sow a habit, reap a character, sow a character, reap a destiny. And the Marine Corps didn't invent a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff had been around since the Romans and even before that. Certainly they've perfected a great majority of it and developed new ideas and new ways to approach these things. But if you approach your life with those same high standards in terms of your rituals and just do it a little bit at a time, remember that 1% shift, what that equals over time. I'm going to get up every day at this time. I'm going to eat, and a little bit at a time. I'm going to eat this way. I'm going to exercise this much. I'm going to read. I'm going to do, if you just keep adding, I'm going to be mentally disciplined at this level. Not only will you change your habits and your characters, but when you raise your standards to those levels, you're also going to feel the most proud of yourself. Just like those Marines, when they were in the Corps, that's where they were most proud of themselves because they were the most powerful. And I don't mean powerful like they could go beat other people up. I mean they were utilizing their resources at their highest level. They were the most alert, the most in shape. They were the most of themselves. And what was one of the other things that happens when you're in the Marine Corps? If one person messes up in the unit, who gets punished? That one person? No. Everybody in the unit gets punished. Now, why would they do that? Because then everybody in that unit has to rise to the standard of the person with the highest standards in the unit. Everybody's got to keep up to that person. Otherwise, they're all going to get punished. And it also makes it so they all work as a team. Imagine in school, rather than having different grades, we told every classroom, everybody has to get the same grade as the highest grade in this class or nobody's going to pass. Imagine that was the standard. What would happen? Everybody would have to work together in order to do the best as the best person in that class. And that's why the Marine Corps does what they do. That's why they punish everybody if one person fails, because then they all have to grab that person and bring them up to everybody else's standard. Whoever you surround yourself with is who you become. So the way that we change our standards is we start with our rituals. The power of rituals cannot be underestimated, and we do little incremental things every day. Starts with little tiny habits, getting up every morning, exercising every day. Think about how the Marine Corps does it. Make your bed. How do you dress? How do you look? How do you talk? How do you walk? They start out with little tiny things, and those little things are going to change who that person is and make them the best of who they are. So it's Monday morning. It's a new day. It's May. The past does not equal the future unless you live there. So it's a new opportunity to be the most of you. So start paying attention to your rituals. What are the little things that you can do every day in order to become the most of you? And write them down and share them if you get a chance. We could all do this together. It'd be great if we started hearing from people on this video as to what are the little things that you're doing that are changing the quality of your life. Or commit. Another way is to create leverage. Come on here and put down, I'm going to do this, and the rest of us can hold you accountable and see whether or not you are keeping up with that, just in order to raise everybody up to their standards. We're going to get through this, everybody. It's going to be a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.